ஓகே. இப்போ இதுலயே அப்படியே நம்ம
இதில் உங்களுக்கு கமெண்ட்ஸ் வரும். உங்களுக்கு ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் யாராவது நீங்கள் கேட்குறப்ப நீங்கள் அப்படி இது
ஓகே. இப்போ இதுல எப்படி
ஃபோன் எடுத்து ஸ்டார்ட் ஸ்லைட் ஷோ போயிட்டு ஓப்பன் பண்ணிட்டேன்னா ஸ்க்ரீன் ஆகிட்டு
ஓகே.
அது வந்து எப்படின்னா
ஓகே. Right. Welcome to this session from once again from Shankar IAS Academy for the current affairs discussion of October 2024. Right. We've had actually two sessions to it. The first part having only current affairs, I think it has already been discussed by Subha ma'am. And in this session, we will discuss the important editorials that had appeared in the October month. Right. So the slide deck which is visible to you, that will be shared with you. All right. So you don't have to worry about the content in there. Right. And the important points from the slide, as well as some other related things which are important from our UPSC perspective, that we will discuss today. Right. So if you see the first article, right, having private participation in India's nuclear energy, right. See, first of all, you might have been aware about India's nuclear strategy. You would have heard the three-stage nuclear strategy of India, right. So in this thing, the thing is, first you have to note, you have the Atomic Energy Act, right. The Atomic Energy Act of 1962 as well as the Amendment Act passed in 1987, they make it very clear that the private participation in the nuclear power generation remains in the domain of government. Okay, so first of all, if we are to promote the private participation in India's nuclear energy, we need to pass amendments in this act. Okay, because the 1987 amendment as well as the 1962 Atomic Energy Act, they say that only the central government can produce, develop and use the atomic energy, right. So that is one thing. And apart from that, the Niti Aayog, right, recently they have come out with one document wherein they are promoting the development of small reactors, right. It's called as a Bharat Small Reactor. So Bharat Small Reactor as well as Bharat Small Modular Reactors, these are all being promoted by the Niti Aayog so as to ensure that there is private sector participation in the nuclear power generation, right. So you might have already been aware, we have something called as enhanced NDC, right. In COP26 in Glasgow in 2021 under UNFCCC, we had pledged that 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel power we would generate by 2030, and in that the nuclear power is included. That is why we have given it as non-fossil fuel power and not as renewable power. If we had given it as renewable power, means nuclear fission we cannot include in it, because nuclear fission, you know that it is non-renewable. Why? Because the raw materials needed for fission, whether it is uranium or thorium, these are all finite in amount, finite in quantity, so we cannot call that as renewable, right. So now the Niti Aayog wants to promote the private sector participation in the nuclear technology. So for that, first of all, we have seen that we need an amendment that has to be made in the Atomic Energy Act, right. And apart from that, with regard to what are the some of the issues that are there that we have to solve before we promote private sector cooperation in this, is the first thing with regard to nuclear safety, right. People are well aware of Chernobyl as well as the Fukushima Daiichi incident. All these things, they caused great anxiety and panic, right, amongst the civilians with respect to nuclear power. We also saw the Kudankulam protests and all, right, in response to the construction of the nuclear reactors there, right. So The thing is that we have, in principle, we have agreed to increase the India's nuclear energy capacity by another 32 gigawatt, and for that they are trying to promote the private sectors in participating in that. Now before doing that, we need to amend the act, right? And apart from that, you are having this organization called as the nuclear power NPCIL. You are having this NPCIL, the Nuclear Power Organization Limited. So the NPCIL is once again a government owned undertaking. It has been given the full job of engineering as well as procurement and construction of our nuclear infrastructure. Okay, so only NPCIL is being involved or given this power. Now if we were to involve the others in running the nuclear power plant, then once again amendments have to be done, right? And we've also seen the atomic energy rules of 2004, under which the atomic energy regulatory board, this atomic energy regulatory board alone has the control over radioactive technology. Okay, so NPCIL for running the reactors, for the technology development AERB, all these organizations, they all come under the government of India, and they have the complete control. They only have the monopoly with respect to nuclear energy. Currently some private sector participation is there in construction of the reactors, right? These are not creation of the energy or maintenance of the reactors, as well as reprocessing or disposal of the waste. All that, in that, private sector participation is not there. That is there only with the central government, right? So this is the thing. Just go through this editorial, right? It is given quite well. And some of the other things regarding to the nuclear program of India, you've heard the 3-stage program, in which stage, the first stage, we will give the uranium as the fuel, right? So we will be giving uranium 234, 235, 238, and eventually we are going to produce the power, along which the plutonium also will be produced as waste. Now this plutonium as well as uranium will be given to the fast breeder reactor in the second stage. And why is it called a fast breeder reactor? Because the end product will produce energy as well as even more of the uranium, right? And finally the uranium and thorium are going to be used along with some amount of plutonium in the third stage, right? So this is the 3-stage nuclear power plant, nuclear program of India. And we can see about the atomic energy department of atomic energy to manage nuclear program, government's goal to increase the nuclear energy contribution to 5%. All these things are there. You can just go through it, right? So the key nuclear plants in India, all that is there. So India's energy goals. So India's energy goals, it comes under the enhanced NDC, once again COP26 Glasgow, right, in 2021 under UNFCCC. Net zero emissions target by 2070. So net zero, you are aware, whatever greenhouse gases we emit will be equal to the amount that we sequester. And renewable energy, creation of installed capacity of 50% of electricity by 2030 from renewable sources like solar or wind or biomass. Non-fossil fuel capacity 500 gigawatt. So this is our enhanced NDC. Green hydrogen 5 million tons by 2030. CO2 reduction, once again additional 1 billion tons by 2030. Already in our NDC 2 to 3 billion tons we have promised to reduce. Another 1 billion tons we will reduce by additionally by 2030. Then there's also this emissions intensity as a percentage of GDP, that is also there, right? Compared to 2005 levels, a 45% reduction by 2030 compared to 2005 levels in emissions intensity as a percentage of GDP. That's also another target. All these things together only called as Panchamrit. So Mission Panchamrit or enhanced NDC, both of them are same, right? So these are our targets for which nuclear power will help, right? And remember, nuclear fusion we consider it as renewable, nuclear fission we consider it as non-renewable. Okay, so these are the things. Now if you go to the second topic, the La Nina shadow, right? The second topic, so it's regarding the climatology. So with respect to La Nina, right? Now first of all, this article, it talks about the impact of La Nina, what it is going to have on the pollution in North India, especially in and around Delhi, right? So this particular study, it has been done by NIAS, National Institute of Advanced Studies, right? So the National Institute of Advanced Studies, which was established in 1988 by JRD Tata, is located in Bangalore within the IAS, Indian Institute of Science campus, right. So the NIAS, along with the SUFFER model, SUFFER you would have heard, System of Air Quality and Weather Forecasting Research, this SUFFER model, they have used the SUFFER model to find out the impact of La Nina, what it is going to have in North India, especially in the winter months. So you are aware of the pollution problem that Delhi is facing. Now this particular study that has been done by NIAS using the SUFFER modeling system, what it is saying is, the slower the withdrawal of the southwest monsoon, it will result in calmer winds. So slower the withdrawal of the southwest monsoon, it will result in more chance for pollution in the atmosphere of Delhi. And apart from that, the delayed onset of La Nina, that also is a matter of concern, because La Nina will bring in strong winds, and when La Nina is going to bring in strong winds, there is a chance for the pollutants to get dispersed. When the pollutants get dispersed, the mixing of pollutants will happen, right, and the air will be a lot cleaner. But the problem is, the delayed onset of La Nina coupled with the slower withdrawal of the southwest monsoon, right, sorry, the delayed onset of La Nina coupled with the slower withdrawal of the southwest monsoon, it can result in very problematic winter for Delhi, where the air quality index already we are seeing, right, though this is the October current affairs, in November month we have seen the air quality index is around 450, right. So those are all some of the issues that are there. You would have seen in the news, GRAP is there, Graded Response Action Plan, you would have heard it. CAQM is there, Committee on Air Quality Management. So they are all, the CAQM is implementing the GRAP. So the CAQM is desperately trying to ensure that the pollution levels come down. And in order to ensure the pollution levels come down, we have one thing called as GRAP, Graded Response Action Plan, under which, depending on the air quality index, there are 4 different stages, right, stage 1, 2, 3 and 4, and based on that we will take certain measures. So that is also there, so you can study that as well, right. And you know that one of the main reasons for pollution in Delhi, right, one, you are aware, stubble burning in Punjab, Haryana and even in Pakistan, right. So these things cause the problem of pollution there. It's because of the anticyclonic conditions that exist during the winter times, right. So it results in high pressure, low temperature, the wind remains stagnant, so there is no chance for dispersal of the pollutants. And the delayed onset of La Nina, La Nina usually provides strong winds, but the delayed onset, now that is once again ensuring a stable atmosphere, and as a result the pollution concentration is very high. And the delayed withdrawal of the southwest monsoon, so that is also ensuring that the pollution remains high, right. So these are some of the issues. So it's actually critical now, though they are saying that the instances of stubble burning and all has come down, still we can see the problem. Lot of ambassadors and all have left Delhi, in fact, to go for, they've gone outside of the country as well. So the next things, this La Nina effect on pollution, so all these things are there, you can just go through it, right. Monsoon reduces pollution due to heavy rainfall cleansing the air, versus winter increase in pollution due to stagnant air, fog, smog, all these things you are aware, these are all geography concepts, right. So delayed onset of La Nina, air quality concerns, past observations, all these things based on which this editorial has been written, right. And SUFFER, so SUFFER is the model, right. So the SUFFER model, System of Air Quality and Weather Forecasting and Research, that is only SUFFER. So this particular model is there to simulate the instances of particulate matter, right. So what will be the particulate matter pollution in a particular area, the SUFFER is able to simulate, and the NIAS scientists have used that data only, right. So all these things, basic things, you are aware of this, you can just go through it, right. Uncertainty of La Nina timing, all these things are there. Challenges, right. I think that's about it with respect to this article. So we can go on to the next one. So the next thing, it's with respect to the situation in the Middle East, right? So we are aware of the problem in Middle East, right? With reference to the Israel-Gaza conflict, right? So we are aware of the attacks by Gaza. It happened on October 7, right, by Hamas, and people are saying that this was actually done to preempt normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, right. Already under the Abraham Accords we have seen there has been normalization of relations between Israel, Bahrain, Israel, UAE, right, Israel, Morocco, Israel, Sudan. All these four countries, these are all Arab countries, they have normalized their relations with Israel. And historically, you are aware, Egypt as well as Jordan, they have normalized their relations. When we say normalize the relations, it means that it will be like a normal bilateral relations itself are being established only after normalization, right? So exchange of ambassadors and various other things, even exchanging of transport. For example, legally flight between Israel and UAE is going to happen only after normalization has happened, right? So under Abraham Accord, the normalization happened between these four countries and Israel, and eventually Saudi and Israel also were coming together in sort of an axis in order to keep the Iranian influence low in the Middle Eastern region. So you know that Iran as well as its proxies, whether it's Hezbollah or whether it's the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in the Iraq, Iran, right? So in Iraq as well as in Syria as well as in Lebanon, you have Hezbollah, right? And various other proxies are there. Hamas is also funded and trained by Iran, right? So Iran, through its proxies as well as through Hamas, it was extending its influence. This once again, it is not well liked by the Sunni states, especially Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, as a result, slowly they were moving closer towards Israel in order to contain Iran. However, the October 7 attack by Hamas derailed the entire thing. And you would have also heard India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. People were saying that the IMEC corridor also would have seen a lot of movement if not for the October 7 attack, right? So all these things have been prevented by the by the Hamas attack. And after the Hamas attack, Israel had launched the invasion of Gaza Strip, resulting in more than 40,000 people dead, nearly 2 million people who have been displaced, right? Periodic, attacks also happen in the West Bank. A lot of people are protesting there as well. And eventually it saw the participation of Hezbollah. Hezbollah directly attacked Israel. Then Israel has invaded into Lebanon, right? Though the invasion into Lebanon is going very slowly because of the urban terrain there, right? And you would have also seen how a lot of leaders of Hezbollah have been neutralized, right? So a lot of leaders of Hezbollah have been neutralized. The top leadership is entirely gone. Same thing with Hamas, the leadership has been neutralized. Okay, so now Israel, in a way, they are having a five-front war. They're fighting with Gaza Strip, they're fighting with West Bank, they're fighting with the Houthis, they're fighting with the Hezbollah, and last we saw almost a direct confrontation between Iran as well as Israel. Now they are actually launching missiles and drones against each other, so that's also some of the issues. So this is the situation in the Middle East. It's a tinderbox like situation. Okay, the US election results with now President Trump coming into office. So people are expecting that things will move more swiftly. And during the campaign, we have seen that Trump had been leaned more and more towards Israel, right? So once he is going to enter into office, it remains to be seen how peace is going to be found here, right? And peace in the Middle East is very important because lot of oil is going to pass through the areas of Middle East. For example, take the Strait of Hormuz, right? The Strait of Hormuz is where the entire amount of oil is going to be transported, and India depends on nearly 80% of crude oil imports, and a lot of the imports come via the Middle East, via the Strait of Hormuz, right? And if the oil is going to be affected, it can cause global problems, right? Even in India, it can cause a lot of problems. Nearly 10 million Indians are there in the Middle East as workers, right, all over the Middle East. If the conflict is going to extend, if it is going to involve other countries of the Middle East, it can become a humanitarian problem for India as well, right? So these are all some of the situations. So it becomes very imperative to ensure that restraint is there between Israel as well as Iran, and world leaders, hopefully they would do the de-escalation so that the conflict can be tried to be resolved once again through dialogue, right? So that's the thing. So the background you are already aware, you can just go through it. The material will be shared with you, right? Gaza Strip. See, all these are map based questions, right? They can ask a lot of map based questions. Where is Gaza Strip? Who are the surrounding countries of Gaza Strip? West Bank, where is it located? Any water bodies flowing into these areas, right? Dead Sea or Red Sea, they can ask the water bodies, I mean the rivers flowing into them, that can be asked, right? So assassination of top leaderships, that has happened. Hezbollah leader Nasrallah has been targeted. Hamas figures like Ismail Haniyeh, Mohammed Daif, all of them have been targeted. They've all been killed, right? So all these things are there. You can just go through it, right? Once again, Lebanon is actually, once again, it's a multi-racial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural society, right? With Shia Muslims, Christians as well as Sunni Muslims. There are also Druze, right? Druze ethnicity present there, and a lot of once again, South Lebanon is, once again, the infrastructure there has collapsed. So these are all some of the issues. India Israel relationship, this is important. Once again, our missiles, right, we have a lot of military deals with them, right? Agricultural deals also, drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, all these technologies were promoted by Israel, right? And a lot of arms, ammunition, right, radar systems, all these things we are cooperating with Israel, right? What would be the impact? Once again, it can impact trade, right? So if you see India Israel trade, it's in our favor, right? The balance of trade is in our favor. 8.4 billion in exports, 2.3 billion only in imports. So it's in our favor. So that can be a problem. Of course, there are a lot of Indian students as well as Indian workers there in Israel. A lot of Indian nurses are there in Israel. So it can be a problem for them, right? Just be aware of the map of Israel, I mean of the Middle East in general, right? So all these things can be asked in the exam. So let me just check if there are any questions in chat, right? Okay, so then we can continue with respect to the next topic, right? The next topic is with respect to the Supreme Court, sorry, the Bombay High Court verdict, right? It's with respect to the Bombay High Court verdict regarding the uh, Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code rules, or the 2021 IT rules for short. So under that, there were a lot of rules that were made by the government of India. Okay, for example, grievance redressal of the OTT platforms, right? The social media websites which are bigger in size, having lot of users, they have to provide them the option of verification, this blue tick and all, right? Three-tier regulation for the current affairs websites, YouTube sites and all, digital media platforms, all these things. If you have any grievance with respect to the content that is there on social media, if it is in the form of videos, right, they should have a nodal officer for grievance redressal, right? If you are not satisfied by their verdict, once again, an industry appellate body is there, you can go for the grievance redressal there. And finally, if you are not satisfied with their verdict also, you can once again appeal to a body that will be created under the Ministry of Communication. All these things were there, part of the intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code. Now, apart from these provisions which we discussed, Union government also created something called as a fact check unit, FCU. This FCU, it had been created under this intermediary guidelines rules of 2021. And what is this FCU is? Okay, this fact check unit, what is its job is, it will identify any information that is available online, if it is getting posted in the social media by some person, right, and if it is fake or false or misleading according to the government will notify the particular social media telling that it is fake, and once it has been notified, the media should remove it. If they don't remove it, then that particular social media platform can get persecuted. Okay, so usually the social media platforms, they have something called as a safe harbor rule. What is this safe harbor rule? It is an immunity from liability. That is, if any person comes to the social media and posts something, it is not the responsibility of the social media website. It is some person has posted it there. So we do not take action against the social media site. But now under this law, fact check unit will be created, and if any of the fact check unit finds out some content and they feel it's misleading, then the government will ask the social media company to remove it. If they are not going to remove it, then the government says that the safe harbor provision, that is prevention from persecution of that social media company, that will be waived off. Okay, so the government can take action against the social media company itself. Okay, so the case was going on in the Bombay High Court, right? Initially there was a two judge bench. Okay, the government said that this fact check unit is well within the constitution. The constitution does not protect or give any license for spreading the fake news. So if the FCU finds out that it is fake news, we will ask them to remove it. If they don't remove it, action will be taken against them. This is, the government said that it is within the constitution, right? The social media company can choose to appeal against such action also, so there's no problem. That's what the government said. But then eventually the Justice AS Chandurkar of Bombay High Court, because the previous bench had two judges and one of the judges agreed with the government, the other judge said that the FCU is illegal. So it was a split verdict. And finally, the third judge, Justice AS Chandurkar of the Bombay High Court, what he did was, he said that the fact check unit cannot be allowed to prevail. If the fact check unit is continued going to exist, then it can create a chilling effect on free speech. Okay, and it can result in the persecution of the social media platforms. And he said, and the judge said that internet will no longer be free, right? So having freedom on the internet is one of the things why the internet is favored by a lot of people. And this sort of action by the government, they said that it can be against free speech. So free speech, it's guaranteed in Article 19, right? So this is against free speech. It will create a chilling effect. It can result in absolutism on part of the government. So all these things, the government should not allow to happen. So the Bombay High Court, they released a verdict saying that the fact check unit henceforth will be deemed illegal, right? So that's it for the fact check unit. And the basic provisions of the constitutions, all these things you can just go through it. You already know, it's there in your Lakshmikant book and all, right? Freedom of speech and expression, Article 19 clause 1, Article 19 clause 2 allows for reasonable restrictions in the interest of public order, defamation, national security, relations with foreign states, right? Safe harbor, what is safe harbor? Prevention from of media, social media company will not take the liability, right? Someone else has come and said something, you can't persecute the media company, right? So that's the thing. So what the government said under the IT Act, right, they should follow due diligence and include removal of flagged illegal content. Usually after a court verdict they used to do it, and now the government created the FCU. The FCU has been struck down, right? So that's the thing. So you can just go through these things. Justice Chandurkar's verdict, all that is there. You can just go through it, right? So we've discussed this. So what is chilling effect? Chilling effect and all, you can just be aware of it. indirect discouragement of free expression due to fear of government retaliation, that is chilling effect, right? So what's the way forward? So you can use these things in your mains exam, right? The different article provisions, the content that is there, all these things you can use it in your mains exam, right? It will help you in adding value to your answers. So the next article, it's with respect to the arrival of the northeast monsoon, right? So southwest monsoon has ended June, July, August, September, that is the period of southwest monsoon. So now with the end of the southwest monsoon, now it is the time of arrival of the northeast monsoon. Okay, so I'll just have some water before I go ahead. The thing with respect to the northeast monsoon is that, right, the variability is more. If you compare with respect to the southwest monsoon, okay, usually the southwest monsoon, the variability will be around 10%, but the northeast monsoon, the variability can be as much as 25%. So the variability is more. Though the southwest monsoon is given lot of attention, northeast monsoon also, right, it's important, especially for the states of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, parts of southern Karnataka, Kerala. Northeast monsoon gives a lot of rainfall, right? Though annually, if you see with respect to average of India, you know, it's around 88, 89 centimeters. For that, the northeast monsoon's contribution is only 11%, but for these states, it's the main thing. Take the case of Tamil Nadu, right? It's entirely dependent on northeast monsoon, right? So the thing is that the variability of the northeast monsoon, it's quite high, and in some years the northeast monsoon is not living up to its hype. You get less rainfall. This can cause problems. In some years the rainfall is good. Take the case of 2015 Chennai floods, right? 2019 Chennai faced water shortage. So all these things, variability is there, right? And how these variations are being influenced by El Nino or La Nina, that is one thing, right? Walker circulation or southern oscillation, all these things. Apart from that, what impact the climate change is having on this rainfall, that also is another important thing we have to consider, right? So whether it is going to be drought, whether it is going to be a deluge, both instances are going to increase in the near future thanks to climate change. We are aware that, you know, average temperatures, they have risen more than 1.2 degrees Celsius compared to the onset of industrial revolution. Compared to 1800s, it's at least 1.2 degrees Celsius higher, right? Both Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean and all have got warmer. So all these are some of the issues that we have to take into account. And some basic things about the monsoon and all is there, right? Which are the high rainfall areas, orographic rainfall, in which areas the rainfall is less. All these things you have it in your NCRTs, you are aware of it, you can just go through it. What is orographic rainfall, what is cyclone depression, what is the tropical cyclone, temperate cyclone, right? Thunder showers, all these things can be asked. So it's there in your Go Cheng Liang book, it's there in your NCRTs, right? The concepts you can just go through it. So Bay of Bengal branch, Arabian Sea branch, all this you've heard. So that's about it. What is northeast monsoon, what is southwest monsoon, why is it called northeast, why is it called southwest monsoon? These things, basic things you have to know, right? So the area, right? So especially when you're going to write mains, you need to provide map, right? You need to provide visually or to represent the thing. Especially when it comes to geography, you should be in a position to draw maps, right? Even if it is other subjects, you know, you need to provide flow charts or data or all these things, reports, right? You have to quote committee reports, all these things. In geography, drawing maps are very important. So develop the map skill so that you will be able to finish all the things, you know, faster. Impact of varied rainfall, you know, it can affect productivity, When it is affecting productivity, farmers will not be able to repay the agri loans. When agri loans are not going to be repaid, the banks NPA situation will worsen. When banks NPA situation worsens, the economy will get affected because banks will have to keep higher provisions, not enough loans. People won't have enough income, right? If you have the loans, maybe I will create newer enterprises, upgrade my existing enterprise, give more jobs, increase salaries, all that. Loans are less, right? Farmers themselves have less income because of the variability, not enough harvest. Once again, no money with anybody. So when no money is there with everyone, once again it can affect the other areas. People will spend less and less. So it can cause depression in the economy, right? It can people might not send the children to schools. All these things happen. So the Indian monsoon actually determines the fate of India. If the monsoon, both the northeast and southwest monsoons are normal in India in a year, the entire country actually gives a sigh of relief. If any of this is affected, someone will suffer surely, right? Starting from the farmers, starting from the banks, starting from the entire economy, the GDP, the income, the nutrition rate, the education rate, all this will go down, right? So that is the thing. So just go through it, all these areas, frequent flooding, right? So even in Kerala floods you would have seen, right? They are saying that once in 100 years Kerala floods. So it's that bad. So just go through these things. The next thing, once again, coming back to Kerala, right? We saw the Kerala landslides. It happened in July, right, in Wayanad district, and the landslides, it caused lot of misery, right? Lives were lost, property was damaged, and these types of disasters intensity is increasing, right? In Kerala, you are having coastal erosion problem. You would have heard all the monazite, ilmenite sands and all are getting stolen from Kerala, right? Where it is going, we don't know. They're getting exported, right? The minerals are getting exported. That is one problem causing coastal erosion, right? Rising sea levels, that also accelerate this problem. Increasing floods, increasing intensity of rainfall, right? Heavy rainfall events are increasing. Now that can cause the landslide problem, right? Already the development is being done very bad. If you take the Western Ghats regions, you would have seen in Maharashtra also same problem, mud flow, landslide and all repeatedly happening during the southwest monsoon. Same problem only in Kerala also. You might have heard the Kasturi Rangan report, right? Kasturi Rangan report on protecting the Western Ghats, it's said that these areas of Western Ghats, right, they should be protected. It gave some value. If I am not wrong, it's around 60,000 hectares or something. These much area of the Western Ghats have to be protected, and there should not be allowed any excessive development. There should not be such a commercial development there. But the states and all rejected it, saying that it will affect the livelihood of citizens. Now because of that, we promoted the development there, and we are going there, digging the mountains and laying the roads, constructing infrastructure. You would have heard Char Dham project. Same problem. Nobody knows what's going to happen next there. They are digging the mountains and then they are constructing roads and highways and all. Same thing here in Kerala. We are having this problem of construction in the hilly areas. Okay, and that is already causing the susceptibility of a landslide. It's increasing, and the heavy rainfall event is accelerating that, right? Even if you take in the Western Ghats regions of Kerala, the population density is much higher. Okay, even in the mountainous regions of Kerala, the population density is quite high. So all these are actually problems. And what are the ways to solve them? This is going to surely be asked in the exam, right? So this editorial is giving very good points which you can actually make use of in your mains exam, right? First thing, we need to identify the zones which are susceptible to landslide. For that, we can create the landslide susceptibility map. Once we've identified the areas, combine them, create a susceptibility map, factor in the other things. What is the slope there? What is the lithology there? What is the structure of the rocks there? What is the mechanical properties of those rocks? What is the slope? how much rainfall is expected, are there rivers any nearby, what will be the infiltration based on the soil and rock type. All these things you calculate, and then you find out which areas are susceptible, and then you can rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. Now that is the first thing. Now the second thing, we can start teaching the disaster management and best practices as well as rescue to the public. The civil society organizations, the local self-help groups, they all have to be repeatedly trained in during the response to various disasters. This also has to be done, right? So you are having the Disaster Management Act of 2005. In that you are creating NDRF, National Disaster Response Force, State Disaster Response Force, District Disaster Response Force, and all is there. And there are provisions to train the civilians in helping these organizations, right? So those are things that we have to do, right? Rescue, relief, rehabilitation, right? And before that there should be proper planning, right? We need to ensure that there is a disaster preparedness, we need to have disaster resilient frameworks, right? Sendai principles you would have heard, Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Implementation of these principles, that would also help, right? And the steps are given here in this article, right? How we are to going to ensure that disaster risk is going to be reduced, right? First thing we said, as we said, disaster maps, susceptibility maps can be created. Okay, once the maps are created, we need to ensure that people are being given training in to ensure that if the disaster is going to happen, what would their response be, right? So that is the second thing. The third thing, we need to ensure that who are the at-risk communities. These at-risk communities have to be identified and have to be, in the event of a problem in their areas, they should be ensured that they should be rescued first. So this should be there. There should be coordination between the local community and the local government, the local government and the state government and the central government. So there should be proper coordination between the authorities. We should come up with a bottoms up approach, not a top down approach. We need to actually understand the requirements, the problems of the people, right? Once they are feeling free to convey the issues, we will be able to come up with a solution that works, because any solution can work only with the people's participation, right? And in order to create these maps and all, we can involve the research institutes and academia as well, right? And in order to, another important aspect is this mitigation, whatever is possible for mitigation, right? Sustainable development. We need not go for commercialization, and we cannot unbridled, unconsequential development of the hilly areas. Hereafter it will not suffice. We need to heed the call of nature, right? The writing is on the wall. So development should be sustainable, right? Whatever architecture that is being constructed, right, that should be disaster resilient. You might have heard CDRI, right? It is an organization launched by India, right? Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure, CDRI framework launched by India. Once again, intergovernmental organization, they have given the best practices. Sendai framework gives the best practices. Disaster Management Act gives the best practices. Building standards code is there. It gives the national building code that is there, which gives the best practices. So in the hilly areas, how to construct, what materials to use, all that should be identified and properly implemented according to the rules and best practices. Only then this thing will be solved, right? So you can just go through it, the other things. So risk mapping, data collection, all these things you can just go through it. Use these content in your mains exam, so it will be shared with you, right? So what is the geographical vulnerability, what is the climate change impact, developmental pressure, informed disaster response, all these things are there. You can just go through it, right? What are the challenges in the risk mapping, so that's also there. You can use this content. Way forward, robust mapping, public participation, integration with developmental planning, strengthening early warning system, implementation of best practices. So we can take it from Japan. That is why meeting happened in Sendai, right? So susceptibility, vulnerability, risk, so all these maps are there. You can just go through it. Now once again we've come back to the next thing with respect to the Middle East, right? So already we saw one of the articles, the October 7 attack. How many people from Israel 1200 have died. From Gaza Strip, 40,000 people have been killed, right? 2 million have been displaced. So Israel is fighting a 5-front war, right? And the area has never seen peace. You might have heard of the Crusades. Even the medieval times, there was fight, right? The Christian kingdoms will try to take over Jerusalem, right? The Muslims will try to take it back. So this has been there. The region has never seen peace, right, from the beginning itself, right? And now it's like an all-out ideological war. Though the Hamas are predominantly Sunni Muslims, they are being supported by Iran, because Iran wants to take the leadership, and they want to be seen as the defender and protector of Islam. So that is the thing. And 10 million Indians are there in the Gulf, extremely sensitive to oil prices. You've seen the Houthi attacks on commercial tankers, ships, and all. So that caused a lot of problems, right? So it's important that this dialogue happens between the world leaders so as to re-establish peace in the region. So basically, we've discussed this. Just that we are seeing it again because these many times it's coming in the editorial. So it's an important thing. So just go through it. So current situation, all these data you can use. The maps, pro-Iran front, anti-Iran front, right? Wild cards, flashpoints, right? So just go through it. Iranian proxies are there in Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. Lebanon, Hezbollah is there. Houthi rebels of Yemen, that's why it's given as flashpoint, right? So this is the humanitarian crisis. India's role and stakes in the region. You can just go through it. So the next article, once again with reference to the climate resilience, right? So this talks about the global goal on adaptation, right? So the global goal on adaptation, first of all, what is adaptation? See, you would have heard in climate, you would have heard mitigation, you would have heard adaptation. So what is the difference between the two? Any step that you take to bring down the impact of climate change, any step that you take that will address the root cause of climate change, that's called as mitigation. So the root cause of climate change is greenhouse gas. If we are avoiding the greenhouse gas emission, if we are shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources, if we are planting more trees, this is mitigation. You are actually reducing the impact of global warming, you are trying to reverse it. Adaptation is you throw up your hands in the air and you accept the new normal. Okay, sea level is going to rise. I have no choice but to live here. Water level will increase. So what do? I build my house on a stilt. Instead of building it on the ground level, I built it on a raised platform or a stilt. That is adaptation. Okay. So in order to tackle with the climate change, both mitigation as well as adaptation, we have to give the equal importance, right? Especially in the developing and least developed countries. It is the poorest who are going to be affected by climate change. So you have to help them adapt, because already 1.2 degrees Celsius temperature has risen, and that will have its problems. And we are very quickly going to extinguish the 1.5 target. We are letting whatever carbon dioxide equivalent emissions that we are releasing, right? Though it might be, the rate has slowed down, right? Adaptation gap is still there. The developed countries had promised lot of technology transfer, money and all. You would have heard $100 billion every year from 2020 onwards for technology transfer, including technology transfer, $100 billion for climate resilient and climate mitigation, climate adaptation, for these activities, right, to ensure sustainable development, green development. But the money has not been that much forthcoming, right? So that is the thing. And you are aware the most recent UNFCCC summit, it's going on in Azerbaijan, right? So a lot of things are there. So this article, it talks about the global goal on adaptation. First of all, there's one associated topic. You need to know what is the first global stock take. The first global stock take, it took place under the Paris Agreement, and what this global stock take refers to is, it will track the performance of the different countries of the world in achieving the Paris targets. So Paris target is to limit the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, right? In worst case to 2 degrees Celsius. and towards this every country has given the NDC, and then they have given the enhanced NDC also, but still it is not enough. World is not on track to achieve this target. Though every country is actually doing something, it is not enough. That is what the global stocktake is saying. Okay, and the global stocktake is also calling for international cooperation, ensuring scaling up of technology and finance, right, and ensure sustainable land use, ensure you are enhancing your NDCs, once ensure you are implementing them. That's what the global stocktake is talking about. Okay, the global adaptation gap report of 2023. So this particular report is saying that the adaptation gap is now $366 billion per year. Okay, you need to spend $366 billion more to ensure that the vulnerable in the world are having the enough adaptations, right, to survive the climate change. But that itself is not there. $366 billion deficit is there per year, and it's increasing. If this year it's 366, next year it becomes 400 billion. So that's the problem, right? So negotiations are currently going on, right, in order to help to achieve the global goal on adaptation. Okay, so what is the biggest problem with respect to the global goal on adaptation is, it is with respect to the implementation. Okay, the implementation of the different provisions, whether it is technology transfer, whether it is public finance, the implementation, it is becoming a question. You would have heard common but differentiated responsibility. But the thing is that the developed countries, they want the developing countries themselves to fund the things. You know that legacy impact, right? The climate change basically is a legacy impact of unbridled industrialization done by the developed countries. They did it for nearly 200 years, and now immediately when the previously colonized countries and least developed countries are trying to develop, the climate has already been ruined, right? So it becomes important that these countries, though they are saying that under common and differentiated responsibility, the developed countries only ruin the climate, so they have to help. But the thing is that who is going to suffer? These countries also are going to suffer. They can't say that they are only responsible, so they'll take the action, we won't do anything. We can't do that. The climate change will not respect your border or who's right or who's wrong. Impact will be faced by every country. Take the case of India. Extreme temperatures, extreme weather events, heat waves, cold waves, see the Delhi pollution, all these things we are facing, right? So the biggest problem of the global goal and adaptation is to identify the means of implementation, where the money is going to come, where the technology is going to come. Okay, so that is what currently they are ongoing. Hopefully in the Azerbaijan summit COP29 in Baku, they will find an answer to this, right, so as to ensure that the adaptation will be successful. You might have heard there is this island in Panama, right? I'm not able to recall the name. This island in Panama, people have been shifted to the mainland. They've already started the shifting. By 2050, they are saying that this particular island is going to go down totally because of the rising sea levels. Okay, and already they have started shifting the people there. The same problem can happen in Maldives, and once again, refugee crisis can happen. They'll come to India only. Take the case of Lakshadweep, they can face the same problems, right? So these are some of the things. So you can just go through it. Some things with respect to prelims they can ask: when was the global goal and adaptation created? What is the aim, right? What are its objectives? What are the areas of focus? All these things in prelims they can ask. But the content you can use for mains also, right? Assessment of vulnerability, adaptation plan and strategy, financing, capacity building, monitoring, evaluation. This will work for any sustainable development answer, any disaster management answer, any climate change answer. So make use of the content, right? Okay, so that is the thing here. So what is the way forward? That also is there. You can use for your mains, right? Enhancing the financial support, strengthening institutional frameworks. So you might have heard institutional frameworks even in India, right? Renewable energy certificates, you would have heard. That's an institutional framework. CCTS we have created, right? Carbon credit trading system, that is one institutional framework, right? So such a certificates, carbon credit is there, right? So what is the difference between REC? What is the difference between energy certificates? What is the difference between carbon credit? What is the carbon credit trading system, right? All these things are institutional frameworks, laws have been created. So we'll see that one by one, right? So these things you can learn. Improving technology transfer, yes, capacity building. So the next article, right, it's once again related to society, it's related to women, right? Either it can be asked in your GS2 under governance, it can be asked in GS1 also, right? So can be asked anywhere. It's with respect to marital rape, right? So in what is marital rape is non-consensual sex during marriage. Okay, so once again the thing here what they are discussing is once again they are telling that they are very neutral, they are very progressive and all. Once again rape means they are implying that man only can rape the woman, right? It can be the other way around also, for some reason that is not discussed, right? But anyway, marital rape is supposedly that men even when the wife is not consenting, they have sexual intercourse with them, and eventually they're saying that this actually there's an exemption, marital rape exemption, it's there in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita itself, right? So that's they've given that exemption, telling that this thing can't be proved whether it is consensual, non-consensual. Such a question does not arise when both of them are married. That is what the law is saying currently, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Okay. Now the question is the marital rape exception is now been challenged before the Supreme Court. Okay. So whether this exception should be there in this act, whether it has to be struck down, that is the debate that is ongoing, right? We should be tracking this, it's very very important. Okay, so what is the central government saying is central government is saying that the marital rape exception, it does not violate article 14. The question is article 14 is discriminating between married and unmarried women, that's the thing, and the government is saying that it does not violate the article 14. Okay, so the court is actually not very happy with this answer of the central government. Okay, once again the central government is saying that marriage is a social institution, and in the social institution usually there is expectation that there will be sexual access to the wife. Okay, so we cannot intervene into that and then identifying which is marital rape, which is consensual. The government is saying that it's a difficult thing, and this will affect the sanctity of marriage itself, and there will be a lot of false allegations which will very difficult to prove whether happened or not. It will become very difficult to prove. Already there is a lot of talk, the dowry laws in India, they are all stacked against the men, right? Already the dowry laws in India, they are well and truly stacked against men. There have been allegations of false rape, and proving that it has not happened, it's very difficult, and you've already seen in social media and a lot of cases are there. You might have seen that case. There was this Swiggy delivery person. Customer accused him of trying to sexually assault her or something, harass her or something, and eventually it was during the peak of the Me Too movement, and people blamed the delivery boy, right? And then after investigation they found that there's no evidence for this. And you might have also heard of another case, there was this individual, right? It happened in Delhi, and he was once again falsely alleged to have abused a woman. It started off as some traffic altercation, and people started assassinating his character, right? A lot of allegations were put on, and it becomes very difficult for a man who has caught into it to come out of it clean, right? Because already it is like you are guilty unless you're proving that you are innocent. It's the other way around. You should be innocent until you are proven guilty, but it's the other way around. So once again, with respect to marital rape, just have a balanced answer. Okay, The thing is that one of the main points here is Article 14, right to equality. It is discriminating between married and unmarried women. If unconsensual or non-consensual sex is being forced upon an unmarried woman, then it's a crime. How can this not be the same for a married woman is what they're asking. Okay, so remains to be seen what is going to happen. So just be aware of it. So that is the thing. So they're saying that there is social sanction of non-consensual sex. They're saying that the society believes that marriage means itself a free sex should be given. It's like that. That's their allegation, right? Lack of recourse for victims, limited legal options, and all. They're saying that it leads to disempowerment of women. It reinforces patriarchal norms. All these things, right? International criticism. India faces criticism for violating international conventions like CEDA, right? The elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. That is only CEDA, right? Convention on elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. So we're saying that we are eliminating, I mean, violating that by having a marital rape exemption. Okay. Supreme Court has questioned why this exemption should be there, right? Law Commission has recommended that a review of rape laws should be there, and Law Commission also is saying that marital rape exemption should be removed. Okay. Justice Verma Committee also has recommended criminalizing marital rape. National Family Health Survey is saying that high prevalent of domestic and sexual violence is there in marriages. So probably these. So the thing is that we need to go by the material, right? So all these things say that this exemption is wrong. So in the exam, we'll be able to say that this exemption is wrong if we say that we can show these things as proof. If you're going to say no, then it becomes difficult to substantiate your argument. So go by this convention. Whatever argument you have, a lot of content to prove it. Support materials are there. Go for that. That is the smart way to do. Right. So we have these examples. You can use them. Okay. So all these things are there. Legal support for victims and all you've already heard, right? LSA, Legal Services Authority Act is there, 1987. Under that you are having this pro bono services and all are there. You can just go through it. The next thing, it's related to artificial neural networks, right? You might have heard of artificial neural networks. It's like a machine learning algorithm, right? It has a network of interconnected nodes called neurons, and it processes the data in such a way that it mimics the human brain. It's not like just simply crunching some numbers and then giving the answer. The artificial neural networks, they use a mathematical model. It uses a layered structure of interconnected nodes to process the data. And the thing about ANNs is they can learn from the data, improve their performance over time, and they're able to use the prediction methods as well as actual outputs to alter their decisions. Okay, so they have shown the ability to solve complex problems. They are able to recognize phase. They are able to summarize the documents, right? So different ANN architectures are there. So it's a very, very important topic. Science and technology, GS3, whether it is artificial neural networks, machine learning, data analytics, facial recognition technology, right? Deep learning, all these things, virtual reality, extended reality, augmented reality, right? All these things, quantum computing, all these things are related topics. It's very, very important that you have awareness about them, because both in prelims and mains it can be asked. Okay, and you don't have to worry about the software or coding, how is it done and all. As a generalist, we are getting recruited for a generalist position, administration position. So for that, what you need to know is, you need to know the definition of ANN. What is ANN? Just have a brief understanding. Second thing, where it can be applied. Third thing, what are its drawbacks? What issues are there? What could be problems that can arise? The fourth thing is the way forward. This is the template. Okay, definition, where it can be applied, what are the issues, way forward to overcome them. If this is there, it's enough. Okay, so go through this article. artificial neural networks, what it is, right? The artificial neural networks, they are able to mimic the brain itself, the human brain, how it takes a decision. They are able to mimic it and then they take the decision, right? So just be aware of it. All these are related to each other, whether it is artificial intelligence or whether it is machine learning or deep learning or artificial neural networks, they are all related together. Okay, so just learn about them, right? So artificial neural networks, computational models inspired by the human brain used for complex problems in AI and machine learning, mimics how the human brain processes information, right? What are the components? You have different components: input layer, hidden layer, output layer. Different types are there. This can be asked in prelims. You don't have to worry, very specifically. Just go through it, be aware of it. What is what? That's sufficient. The applications, pattern recognition, face recognition. See all these things. Using CCTVs, they can recognize where this person is. For example, this happened in China, FRT. During the lockdown, they had very severe lockdowns, right? And people who are supposed to be in the lockdown, if they are escaping, they use the FRT to find out. So for example, they have the CCTV cameras everywhere, right? So some person is escaping out of their apartment, right? They've already given into the system that these people ensure that they should be found inside the particular area. If they are moving outside and if the camera is taking the photo, they will give it to the system, and the system will keep on verifying the photos. If people who are not supposed to leave, whether they are leaving, it will keep on checking. Once it keeps on checking and there's a match of a person that who's not supposed to be there is there, immediately the last location you would have seen in WhatsApp, last seen, this person's last scene actually you can find which is the latest CCTV camera which captured him. So that person, though the police know that this person, him or her, has run away, so they capture such people like that. Even for payment, FRT is there, right? We all do the payment using UPI apps and all. We scan the QR code. There the CCTV camera will scan your face, because to your bank account here we attach our Aadhaar, PAN, phone number. There they attach your face itself. If you want to make the payment, you buy the thing, you scan the MRP, it will be scanned and given. So payment, how it is done, you have to smile at the CCTV. CCTV will debit the thing, so it will take a photo, it will compare the photo with the database. In the database, the photo will find, it will go against the particular account because facial data is attached to the account. Okay, so this account debit by 200 rupees, 300 rupees. So that's how it's done. So lot of potential is there, problems also is there. So you understand what about freedom, all these things, right? So what are the disadvantages? These things are the need for large data sets. This is the thing, right? If the data set is not good, it can cause lot of problems. I mean the initially the face unlock feature in phones, right? It worked only with the specific race of people. Some race of people it didn't work. So that's the thing, right? Just go through it. So next thing you would have heard, right? Another thing, medical termination of pregnancy. This has been asked before also. They've asked it before. Sorry, I think I might have skipped something. Did I? Okay, fine. With reference to the medical termination of pregnancy, coming back, right? The medical termination of pregnancy, you are already aware, right? This has been asked in prelims, it has been asked in mains as well. So it's very important that you know. See, when you want to know about any particular act, okay, how do you know that this act is important? We have to read it as a civil servant's aspirant. It's mentioning in the newspaper only. Repeatedly it's mentioned in the compilation, or repeatedly it's mentioned in the newspaper, right? It means that that particular act is important. For example, take the case of you would have heard of the NEET scam, right? And after the NEET scam, the government passed this legislation, right? Public Examinations Prohibition of Malpractices Act, or Prevention of Malpractices Act. So when you come across that, legislation was repeated again and again in the newspaper, right? So when you come across such things, you know that this particular legislation is important. So I have to study it. So how do you do it? Just put the name of the act, for example, public examination, Prevention of Malpractices Act, put PRS. So PRS legislative is one website, please make use of it. So put a PRS, you will get a summary of that act. This 5-6 point summary will be there. Likewise, medical termination of pregnancy, old act, medical termination of pregnancy 1971 act is there, and MTP 2021 also is there. So just put MTP 2021 PRS and you will get the summary. And sometimes when old acts get amended and replaced, they show the difference also, right? What is the provision in MTP 1970? What is the provision in 2021 act? They'll compare it and show, right? So easily you can learn. You don't have to read the bar acts and all. Please make use of PRS. Put the name of the act, put PRS, learn the summary. Okay, lot of important legislations mentioned in the news. For example, the intermediary guidelines itself, it's there in PRS. You can get the summary. Other act, for example, that anti-doping act, that was there in news repeatedly. Once again, that you can get in the summary in the PRS. Our public examination act, that you can get summary in the PRS. Mines and Minerals Act has been amended, that you can get the summary in PRS, right? All important acts you can get it there. So coming to the MTP 1971 and MTP 2021, what is the difference? Up to 12 weeks with advice of one doctor in both the legislations you can do the abortion. Between 12 to 20 weeks, the new act, MTP Act 2021, says that with advice of one doctor you can do the abortion, whereas the old act says that you need two doctors' advice. Between 20 to 24 weeks, once again two doctors, with the concurrence of two doctors you can do the abortion for some categories, specific categories are there. More than 24 weeks, once again under MTP 2021, abortion is still allowed, but you have to get the permission of a medical board. This is the difference. Between 20 to 24 weeks and above 24 weeks, the old act MTP 1971, it did not allow it at all. It was totally banned. Now it is allowed. Okay, so that is the thing. You can just go through it, right? What are the grounds for termination? All these things. Okay, and one important point that you have to learn is, if for example there is failure of the contraceptive method, up to 20 weeks a woman can terminate the pregnancy. Okay, and apart from that, privacy, a registered medical practitioner can reveal only the detail of the woman whose privacy has been or pregnancy has been terminated only to a person authorized by law. Okay, so if privacy also is protected, if this thing is violated, then a fine, imprisonment, all this can happen to the doctor. Okay, so the thing is that the only issue with the Act of 2021 is it does not specify the categories of women who may terminate the pregnancies between 20 and 24. Okay, it's not clear. They have said that certain categories, we don't know what that certain categories is, and for that how to get to know it is, MTP rules will be created under 2021 Act, and from that rules only we can find. So the criticism is that these should be made clear in the Act itself by the Parliament, and not in the form of rules where the government can frame it as they want, right? And the problem with respect to accessing legal abortion is there is 75% shortage of the gynecologists, right? Doctors who are specialists in women's medicine, or with respect to the obstetrics, which is nothing related to labor and delivery and all. So the thing is that the abortion has to be performed only by doctors with specialization in gynecology and obstetrics. Only they can perform the abortion. But the problem is 75% of the shortage is there in such doctors in the rural areas. That is the biggest problem. Okay, and any other reason abortion can still be done. Only thing is that you have to, if it is going to be between 20 to 24 weeks, you have to get the permission from two doctors, and if it's more than 24 weeks, you have to get the permission of the medical board. Okay, and even if the medical board is going to limit it, or they are not giving it, then further you can get the permission is through a writ petition. You can go to the court, right, and get a writ petition. That's how it has to work, right? So these are the things. So what are the shortcomings? They are saying restrictive time limits only up to 20 weeks, limited access for vulnerable groups. Maybe this reason is because of shortage of the expert doctors with specialization in obstetrics and gynecology, right? So all these things you can just go through it. They're saying that pregnant women is mentioned, so transgenders also, some people can get pregnant like that, they're saying. So ensure all these points are there in your answers, make use of it in the mains. So you have to preach inclusivity, right? So transgender inclusivity is very important, so just go through that also. The next thing, US CIRF, right? Once again, US CIRF. The thing about US CIRF, it can talk about the religious freedom in every country except the US, right? So that is US CIRF. That itself says a lot, right? They are worried about religious freedom in every other country except the US, right? And the US CIRF has been particularly harsh on India. They are categorizing India in the same place as Pakistan. Would you imagine, right? So we all know, right? Even the US CIRF, right? It's coming under the US government. Even you take US aid, even US aid is an instrument of US's foreign policy only. The US aid is funding our National Family Health Survey. We might think that these organizations are very neutral. Only benefit we get out of these organizations is for the exam to support our answer. If question is whether there is secularism in India or something like that, we need to have a balanced answer. So at that time we can use the US CIRF and say that freedom of religion is under some problem or threat or something like that. If you're going to say that, you have a lot of proof. If you are going to say that it is not under threat, then you have to give the proof. And the papers like Hindu or Express, they all have a particular ideology, and they're going to give only one-sided news. So if you're not if you're saying that no, it's not under threat, then it's your responsibility. You have to go find out the content to prove that, right? So that's the thing. So coming to the US CIRF 2024 report, it's saying that a lot of individuals from the minority community have been lynched or killed. Okay, and of course Indian government has rightly blamed this as biased reporting. Okay, and the US CIRF is there to protect Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says that everyone has the right to freedom of religion. It's there in our constitution also. Okay, so the US CIRF, how it will create this report is it will travel, it will have the meetings with the NGOs, it will have the meetings with the human rights groups, it will have the meetings with the victims of persecution, right? And then they will frame this report. And they have classified India as a country of particular concern. Okay, so country of particular concern means the government itself engages in severe religious freedom violation, right? So that is the thing. Okay, so in India it is a country of where the systemic and ongoing violence is there against real religious freedom. So they are saying that this is happening in India. Okay, and in countries where there is a violation of religious freedom, where the governments, they tolerate this violation but they don't do it systematically, then they are coming under the special watch list. Okay, here we are not even there in the special watch list, so we are in the country of particular concern, which means that they are saying we are, government itself is systematically promoting, and for that they are giving the examples. Citizenship Amendment Act, they are giving this as an example. See, the Citizenship Amendment Act, what it is doing, it is giving the citizenship to the non-Muslim minorities of Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan, whether it is Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Parsi, Sikh, Jain, where they are giving the citizenship to them. See, this is historical issue. Overnight, these two countries, Bangladesh or Pakistan, they became the Islamist republics, and where the minorities have been treated as second-class citizens. Okay, and one day before 1947, August 14, still it is these places where India, it was a secular country, and overnight these countries become Islamist republics and the minorities get killed there. It's a responsibility of the independent India to ensure that it didn't happen. but they didn't ignored it. They ignored it. That is the truth. And what happened to the minorities in those countries? You take Afghanistan. They had sufficient minorities, 3%, 5% of the population in 1947. What it is today? Absolutely zero, 5 or 10. Though they also have been brought back after Taliban had come to power. Take the case of Pakistan. Take West Pakistan. Nearly 20% of West Pakistan supposed to be minorities in 1947. Now it is what, 2%, 3%. Now where did all these people suddenly disappear? Is it not the responsibility of the Indian government to prevent this thing from happening? Of course it is, because those parts were previously Indian. But coolly, secularism cannot be a one-way street, right? So if you are going to talk against this report, these things you can quote. Take the case demographically, Bangladesh. What is the thing? 1947 percentage of Hindus there around 25-26%, more than 1/4. Today what it is? 8%, 8 to 10%. That's it. What happened to the remaining 15%? They suddenly disappeared or what? They have been forcibly converted. They have been killed. They have been raped, murdered, converted under the sword. Who is to protect them? So what does the US SIRF tell about those countries? That's a question mark. So these kind of international organizations have an agenda. They are only useful for us because we don't have to accept their entire thing as the absolute truth. They have their agenda. And we have our agenda that we have to pass the exam. So when we are saying that secularism is under threat, we can quote these reports. And that's much, there's that, right? So Citizenship Amendment Act, so that they are saying as one example where, I don't understand one thing. What is the percentage of take Muslims itself? What is the percentage of Muslims in 1947? Compare it with now. It has increased, right? If the persecution is real, what it is? The real persecution happened in Kashmir, where Pandits were killed and driven out. I don't understand how that doesn't come here. So it's always one-sided. So this is some problem with these type of reports, right? So they're citing the Citizenship Amendment Act as a problem. They're saying lynchings are happening, and they're saying that rhetoric against minorities has increased. Okay, and they are saying that this is the reason to classify them as a country of particular concern. So we should see what it talks about, say, Saudi Arabia or other Arab countries or Bangladesh, Pakistan. Probably if this is good enough to be a CPC, those countries probably they should be labeled as evil or something like that. We don't know, right? So that they are not doing. So that shows their reveals their agenda, right? So US SIRF agenda or biased driven, that's the question. They're saying that no, it's not, right? It has never misrepresented facts. It has always blacked every claim publicly through documentation, right? So that is the thing. So just go through this article. We are having enough content, right? You can choose either way. Keep a balanced answer. Tell that yes, they are under threat. So if you say that, we have a lot of content to support it. So you can say that. So these are the provisions. So these are all examples of cases. Make use of it. Remember, when you're writing your mains, how are you supporting your answer? That becomes the crucial thing. So you support your answer through court judgments or expert committee reports, or through data from national international reports like this US SIRF, right? So other any data or any other statistics, facts, figures, through that only you're going to support your answer. So just make use of these contents, right? So next thing is with respect to, once again, it's from GS2. It's related to ASEAN, right? International organization. So with respect to ASEAN, right? So we are having the dialogue with respect to ASEAN. That is the thing here. Okay, ASEAN summit began in October 6, and you know the problems in ASEAN. The China maritime problem is there between various countries of ASEAN. China Philippines problem is there. China Vietnam problem is there, right? All these things are there. You might have heard of the Myanmar crisis. Dictatorship has overthrown the civilian government there, right? And ASEAN is very, very important. Act East policy, right? Indo-Pacific vision, security and growth for all in the region, Sagar initiative, right? So many initiatives we are having in the ASEAN, right? And India ASEAN relations are very good, right? and since 1992 we are having a dialogue with ASEAN, right? In 1992 we became a sectoral dialogue partner. Eventually it got upgraded in 1995 as a dialogue partner. In 2012 it got upgraded to a strategic partnership. In 2018 our strategic partnership got better. Both of them, they started cooperating in various avenues. In 2022 it was the 30th year of ASEAN-India relations. They called 2022 as a ASEAN-India friendship year as well. Okay, and after that India ASEAN, we are having a lot of cooperation in various things. Okay, whether it is the ministerial level meetings, whether it is the, for example, the foreign minister level meetings or defense minister level meetings, all these things are happening. Okay, energy, ASEAN energy meetings are also happening. Energy ministers, that meeting is happening. ASEAN plus, you would have heard, ASEAN plus 6 other countries dialogue, right? India, US, Japan, Korea, Russia, all these countries. So that also is happening, right? ASEAN plus 6. ASEAN plus initiative is there. In that also India is a member. Okay, and we are having a lot of dialogue with them, whether it is in business and trade, whether it is energy, whether it is education. In all these things minister levels meetings are there. Okay, so that is the thing with respect to the ASEAN. Fine, so read these things predominantly in your prelims, questions can come, right? So for respect to mains, you should be aware of the India ASEAN trade and all, right? So if you see with respect to the India ASEAN trade, the India ASEAN trade between the two blocks, it's around 110 billion in the year April 2021 to March 2022. Okay, and India's exports to ASEAN, it's greater than 42 billion. Imports from ASEAN is around 68 billion, right? So the trade with ASEAN has crossed over $100 billion. So that's one thing, right? And with respect to FDI also from ASEAN, it's around $120 billion. But of course, this $120 billion, 115 billion comes from Singapore. So that's also there, right? So just be aware of it. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, who are the members, what are their aims and objectives. Okay, so respect for each and every country's independence, sovereignty, integrity of the members, non-interference, resolving disputes peacefully, not using any threat, promoting effective cooperation, all these things. So the background of the ASEAN formation is given. Bangkok Declaration. Remember, Bangkok Declaration also resulted in the creation of BIMSTEC. That also is one Bangkok Declaration. Same another Bangkok Declaration related to ASEAN. So remember, it's the same Bangkok Declaration, same name, but two separate Bangkok Declarations is there. One for ASEAN, another for BIMSTEC. So just be aware of it, right? So just see this ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. So we are having a free trade agreement, right, with ASEAN. So free trade agreement value is around 110 billion, right? India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway, Kaladan multimodal transit project. So Kaladan project, it's in Myanmar, right? In the Rakhine state, from where Rohingyas were expelled, right? So it's the place. So we are having this different joint exercises. So be aware of it. They can give the name of the exercise and they can ask in prelims. Sagar strategy, security and growth for all in the region, right? Then they have given something, track 1.5 diplomacy. So you know what it is, track 1.5 diplomacy, right? So not only involving the government, you are involving the others from outside of the government also. So that is only track 1.5. It can be academicians, it can be business, right? Not only the government leaders, it can be others. That is called as track 1.5 diplomacy. So this is the importance of ASEAN for India. Promoting the rules-based Pacific order, export potential, countering China's regional influence, boosting economic development in India's northeast states, key to India's Act East policy, all these things, just study it. Once again, the map-based questions can come. They can give small islands here. and they can ask where it is located, whether it is East China Sea or South China Sea, right? You might have heard Scarborough Shoal, Paracel Islands, Spratly Islands, right? All these things they can ask, just know where it is, what is the dispute, right? Who is controlling them. So this is once again the India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway. So from More entering into Tamu, Mandalay, Nyapitwa, Bago, and then finally to Thailand, right? So here the benefits they are talking, right? What are the benefits? Farmers are getting benefited, food security and nutrition, women empowerment, sustainable practices, environmental impact, all these things are important. So with that we can end it here with reference to the ASEAN topic. So the next thing, what is the important article is, it's with respect to the role of livestock and fisheries in socio-economic development, right? So what is the, see here, livestock as well as fisheries, lot of schemes are there. It's very essential that you know them very specifically. If you take with respect to the fisheries, Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, right? These things you should be very clear, okay? And these things are very important for the fisheries. And the third scheme, Fisheries Infrastructure Development Fund, you need to know what that is, right? FIDF. Then recently they launched this Pradhan Mantri Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Sahay Yojana. That also is related to the Matsya, that is fishery only. So you have to know what that is as well, right? Apart from that, in order to promote the awareness among the fishermen and the fisher folk, right? Sagar Parikrama, that particular yatra, right, to disseminate information about the fisheries related schemes and programs to the target audience, that is the fisher folk. You had the Sagar Parikrama campaign, so you need to know what that is, right? So these are the main important things with respect to fishery. Now coming to the livestock, you might have heard Rashtriya Gokul Mission. So please study about Rashtriya Gokul Mission. Study about Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund. That is also very, very important, right? Once again, study about things like Gopal Ratna Awards, Kamadhenu Awards. There's also a scheme for creation of Gokul Grams. That is also is there. Please study that also. You might have heard the National Kamadhenu Breeding Center. That is also important. E-Pashu Hat, Pashu Aadhar, Pashu Sanjeevani, Nakul Pranyan Bazaar, Assisted and Advanced Reproductive Techniques, National Bovine Genomic Center for Indigenous Breeds. All these things are very important components of Rashtriya Gokul Mission, right? So study it. And another thing with respect to the animal husbandry, you might have heard of AHIDF, Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund, right? So the AHIDF scheme for dairy processing, for meat processing, for animal feed plants, study that also, right? So the why these schemes are important, it's given on your screen. Income and livelihood generation, food security, nutrition, how it helps the women empowerment, right? A lot of people involved in farming, they are from the women community, so you can study that as well, right? Challenges faced by livestock and fisheries, you might have heard recent diseases, right? Even lumpy skin disease, latest one, foot and mouth disease, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, all these things are affecting the livestock. Once again, with respect to fisheries, you have various bacterial, fungal infections and all these things get enhanced because of climate change as well as environmental degradation. So need to study that as well. So just keep that in mind. Access to credit and insurance, you might have heard Kishan credit card and all, it's extended to the fishers also. So fisher folk also are considered as farmers under KCC, right? And access to technology, all these things, artificial insemination and all, we've seen the things, right? National Kamadhenu Breeding Center, Nakul Pranyan Bazaar, Pashu Sanjeevani, all these things to promote the health as well as promote artificial insemination. So that's there. Technical knowledge and training, so this is an ongoing thing. Even the self-help groups are being trained in related to agriculture and extension activities. So they are imparting the skills to the farmers. You might have heard the various schemes are there for skilling, right? Gramin Deen Dayal Upadhyay Antyodaya Yojana under DAY. Under that also training is being provided in order to help the farmers to become self-sufficient, right? So that is one thing. The National Livestock Mission, Gokul Mission, we have seen this, dairy development schemes, Matsya Sampada Yojana, all these things we have seen, Pashu Sanjeevani scheme. So it's very, very important. Go through this. It can be asked in your prelims related things, and you can quote these things as C. That's the thing. You can never separate prelims from mains. You can quote the same things to give proof, telling that these are the things that we are doing, right? In order to improve the situation of the farmers, when you are talking about farmers, you can split them up. Those who are cultivating the crops, those who are in fisheries, those who are in beekeeping, those who are in the animal husbandry or dairy farming. So specifically you can separate them and you can tell them for these sections, these schemes are there. So it's not that nothing is happening, some things are happening. You can say that it's not enough, right? And for that you can quote the data. You will find the data in the newspapers, you will find it in the monthly compilation, you will find it in PIB website, Niti Aayog website, right? PRS legislative, that has a lot of content, right? So if you go there, you can get the data. These many percentage of farmers are outside of the credit scope of the government. These many people are affected. These many people have access to credit. These many people are unskilled. So if you have the data, then you can give a very good answer. So go through these schemes. You can it will help you in the exam, right? Once again, the next topic related to protein, right? So here this is specifically with something called as people are believing that in India there is protein deficiency. The author here is claiming that that it's not so. Enough protein is being consumed. And another thing is that another myth that they are talking is they're saying that excessive protein content is bad for the kidneys. Now, once again the doctor is saying that that's also not true. You can have good amount of protein, right? So you can just go through this article, but basically just understand what is proteins, right? These are all complex molecules that play a very crucial role in the body, right? They do most of the work in the cell. They are required for structure, functioning, regulation of the body's tissues and organs, right? And proteins, they are nothing but they are composed of different amino acids, right? It might be hundreds or even thousands of amino acids strung together. Together we call it as protein. So protein, in short, they are just chains, long chains of amino acids. And there are, you might be aware, there are 20 different types of amino acids which make a protein, right? And that is the thing with respect to proteins. They play very important roles. For example, in mediating antibody response, in enzyme action, they act as messengers. They provide the structural integrity to the cell and tissues, right? They play a huge work in storage and transportation of essentials in the body. Even you take hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein. It helps in transporting oxygen, right? So basics about protein, just be aware, right? Maybe one thing related to this I can talk. Another thing is about global hunger index, right? Global hunger index 2024 is there. Just go through it. Okay, the latest data regarding stunting, wasting and all is present. Just go through global hunger index. That also will help you, right? And they have explained the content from the article. The author is giving this thing, protein to energy ratio. It's 8 gram per protein for 1000 kilogram for 1000 kilocalories for children, 6 gram protein per 1000 kilocalories for adults, right? So just be aware of, you make use of this data. Okay, so roles of protein: enzymatic, hormonal, transport, storage, structural, everything is given here. You can just go through it. Protein deficiency, it can result in malnutrition. You might have heard kwashiorkor, marasmus and all. So just be aware what it is. Government initiatives, right? This is very important. Government initiatives to ensure that there is no malnutrition, or to reduce malnutrition, to reduce anemia, to reduce child mortality, child wasting, undernourishment, child stunting, all these things are very, very important, right? What are the different initiatives that are there? You might have heard Eat Right India movement. Please study that. Poshan Abhiyan, you would have heard. Poshan 2.0 is there. Midday meal scheme, also known as PM Poshan, that is also there. Go through it. National Food Security Act 2013, Mission Indradhanush. You are having ICDS, so that also you can learn. Okay, so these are some of the things that we have to cover, right? Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, so that is once again related to the cash incentives for pregnant women, right? So 5,000 rupees they are giving. Read about that. National Protein Day, it's February 27, right? PDS, learn about the integrated targeted PDS. Okay, learn about one nation one ration card scheme. So these things you can learn, right? So the next topic, coming to organ transplantation, right? Organ transplantation, you know that we are having a national organ transplantation program, right? And under that program, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they have created the Parliament, in fact, they have passed a law, right? The Transplantation of Human Organs Act, right? THOA Act is there, right? Under the THOA Act only, it is now legally possible for transplantations to take place. The THOA Act creates various bodies. National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization is there, right? So the NATO. So all these things are being created under the THOA Act only. Okay, and you can make use of this data, right? There is a demand for a lot of transplants, but actual number is quite less. Okay, so under the THOA Act, NATO has been created in order to streamline and legalize the transplants. Okay, and one thing that you have to remember is the THOA Act 2011, it specifically talks about the transplantations only in 3 categories. In India, what is allowed is altruistic transplants are allowed, transplantation from the near relatives is allowed, and apart from that, swap transplantations are allowed. Okay, transplantation from the relatives, you know what it is, near relatives, whether it is mother, father, grandfather, grandchild, grandmother, so that's near relatives. Transplantation, altruistic transplantation, that is without for any monetary concern, that is allowed. Okay, and swap transplantations, for example, in a family there is one donor and there's a patient who needs a transplant, but in the family there's no matching of the organs or tissues, and but one person is ready to donate. Likewise, we find another family where a person is ready to donate and however, unfortunately, matching is not there. So then these 4 people can be brought together, and if the cross match is happening, the donor from this family able to give the organ to the another family's patient and vice versa. That's called as swap transplants. Swap transplants are allowed. Okay, so that is the thing. And remember, with respect to the organ transplantations, there are timelines, right? It is not that you have removed the organ or harvested the organ means it can stay for so long. If you take heart, within 4 hours of removal, it has to be transplanted into the individual. Same thing for lungs. Within 4 hours of removal, it has to go into the individual. Intestines, around 6 to 10 hours. Pancreas, around 12 to 24 hours. Kidneys, even 24 to 48 hours, you can keep it in storage. Okay, so that is the thing. Be aware of that. Fine. And another important thing, it is with respect to the under the National Organ Transplantation Program, we are creating the NATO. Okay, so the NATO will play a key role in ensuring that the transplantation takes place in the country. Okay, so the main thing about NATO is it has been subdivided into 2. Okay, first is the National Biomaterial Center. The National Biomaterial Center will be the place where the organs and tissues are stored. The second thing is the National Human Organ and Tissue Removal Storage Network. So the main aim of this organization is to connect the donors with respect to the patients, right? So at the regional level also, organ transplant and tissue organization has been created. At the state level also, state organ and tissue transplant organizations have been created. So both these are coming under the THOA Act only. Okay, so that is their jobs, and they are promoting the transplantations. And if you see with respect to the transplantations in terms of numbers, India is at the third highest level in the world with respect to transplantations. But per million population, the transplants are very less, and with respect to the demand also, we are not having enough transplantations. Okay, so those are some of the things. So you can just go through this, and some of the issues is you are having this illegal transplantations, right? The organs get trafficked and all these problems are there, so that you can just go through that. So loopholes are there, and the poor people, they are given the money and they are forced to part with organs. They are not given full information of what it is. All this is illegal. Okay, so just go through it. So I think another thing, the next topic, it's with respect to the India-Canada relations. You would have heard, right, with respect to Khalistan issue and all. So the India-Canada relations here with respect to Khalistan, you might have heard the assassination of a person, right, called as Nijar, right. The assassination of Nijar, Hardeep Singh Nijar, that caused a big problem. Canada as well as the US, they said that it is the Indian intelligence officials only who carried out the assassination. Okay, you might have heard of the Five Eyes network. So this Nijar, he promoted the Khalistan sentiments in Canada, and somehow he got killed. People are saying that it could be due to some gang rivalry and all. Okay, whereas the thing is that the belief is what the Five Eyes intelligence network, you would have heard. US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK, they are in a group. All the English speaking countries are in a group. They share the signals intelligence as well as surveillance intelligence. They are putting the blame on Indian intelligence agencies, and Canada gave an official statement telling that Indian intelligence agencies only have done this assassination, and after that it resulted in a huge meltdown, right? And India protested very strongly, and ambassadors were recalled and all these things happened, right? So just be aware of it. One important thing you need to know here, background of India-Canada relations, that you have to know, right? So India-Canada relations, the annual trade is worth around $8 billion, okay? And the Indian diaspora in Canada, that is the most important thing. Indian diaspora in Canada, 1.4 million people are living there. It's a very big diaspora. Okay, a lot of people specifically from Punjab region, specifically Sikhs are there, right? So that is one important point, right? India and Canada, both of them are members of the Commonwealth, they're members of the G20, they're members of the UN. They participate on issues like sustainable development, climate change and all. Okay, and ongoing negotiations for SEPA, currently we are having a discussion for comprehensive economic partnership agreement. And because of this fiasco, Nijar fiasco, that agreement has been, the dialogue has been halted, right? And their aim is to boost the trade. Hopefully under the SEPA, they want to boost the trade by another $6.5 billion. So hopefully around 14 billion, that is the aim. Okay. And the thing is that, however, lot of investors from Canada are still there in India. Okay. Portfolio investors, they have nearly 1.7 lakh crore exposure to the Indian markets. Equity exposure of 1.5 lakh crore, right? A lot of the social security organizations like the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, various other social security organizations, they have put money in India, right? Diaspora connections, even in education, right? Even in education, we are having the collaboration with respect to space technology. India and the Canadian Space Agency, they collaborate, right? Nuclear agreement is there between India and Canada, under which uranium supply is happening, right? Student exchange between India and Canada is happening. Lot of Canadian tourists come to India, that is one important thing. Okay, with respect to the tourists, right? Fourth largest source of tourists in India is Canadians, so that is one importance. And bilateral trade is in India's favor, right? So that is important. So we are having a positive bilateral trade with Canada, right? India's exports is around 4.1 billion, what we import is around 4.05 billion, so we are having a small surplus. So all these things are there, right? Once again, this Nijar fiasco, Canada invoked the Vienna Convention, telling that their diplomatic staff and citizens in India are under threat. So they invoked the Vienna Convention. So just be aware what is the Vienna Convention, okay? And this has delayed the SEPA agreement dialogues also. And recently you would have seen in the news, though it is not in October, it's in November. Canada has reformed its fast track visa for students, and 60% of students using this fast track visa program for education is Indian students. So they have reformed it. Now we are only having a single visa application. You don't have the fast track application. Previously, fast track application, the documentation was less, time was less, fees was less. So students used to prefer it, especially Indian students. So now that also has been removed. Okay, main reason that has nothing to do with the Nijar assassination. The main reason there, it's because of rising cost of living. Excessive immigration has resulted in high cost of living. The rents have increased. The what to say, the grocery price has increased, the petrol price has increased, housing has increased, general cost of living itself, inflation is very high, right? So that is one of the reasons why Canada is reducing on the immigration. So these are some of the things that are there, right? I guess half of the things we can cover in this session. It's already 2.5 hours into the thing, right? 2 hours is over. So I hope we can finish the first half here. Maybe in a week's time or so, maybe we can have the second half. Okay. So any questions from the students, right? Any questions are there, you can ask. If not, I guess we can wind up, right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for the 2 hours, right? Any questions, you can always put it in the comments, okay? And even your answers, model answers, you can put it in the comments. We are evaluating and giving feedback, right? So any questions you can ask, else you can put it in the comments. We also answer to the comments as well, okay? I hope you benefited from this discussion, and the PDF, it will be shared with you, so you can make use of it also, okay? All the best, and prepare well. We'll meet in the next discussion, right? Thank you.
எது கொடுக்குறேன்